Nav Sawnhey of the Washing Machine Project. You've all seen him on those BBC stories, and we see you at 10 Downing Street all the time. What, the King's coronation? So you're clearly influencing the right people, and people are paying notice.
I would take the toolbox out of the cupboard. I would just break everything. You know, taking apart appliances, not knowing how to put them back together.
You left Dyson, a leading engineering company. You now have an electronics company behind you supporting the Washing Machine Project.
As an engineer, you can really help or hinder humanity, and I knew what side I wanted to be on.
Well, welcome everyone. This is another episode of MindHug series on change. We got you. Today I've got a guest who is all about change, really. Life, work he's doing, and a buddy of mine. Nav Sawnhey of the Washing Machine Project. So Nav is very, very, very interesting. I mean, you've all seen him on those BBC stories, and you've seen Washing Machine Projects on all the hoardings everywhere, including Waterloo as well. But there's a real story behind this, and there's a story of change, and there's a story of change of Nav influencing the right people, but there's a story of change in his personal life and the people he impacts as well. And we're going to touch upon all of this, I'll let Nav introduce himself, but it's very, very heartening to see where the Washing Machine Projects come from when we first met. The BBC documentary that you did soon after we met, which was that blue drum, the plastic blue drum. You remember you took that? I mean, it was basically a blue drum with a scissor cut out, right? You remember that?
Yeah. When did we first meet then?
That was around 2019, 2020, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was around that. And we're going to learn a bit more about you, a bit more about the Washing Machine Project. Okay, we see you at 10 Downing Street all the time. Okay, we see, you got the Points of Light Award, okay, which is the Prime Minister's Award. You were at the King's coronation. So you're clearly influencing the right people, and people are paying notice. And I want to touch upon this. So let's start off. Why don't you tell the world a little bit about you, about the Washing Machine Project?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll kick off to some questions.
Wow. What an introduction. Well, no, Raj, thank you so much for having me on, and been really excited to come on, and I really love what you guys have got going on here. So thank you for having me, and I'm a massive supporter of MindHug. I think it's an amazing organization. I think to talk about the Washing Machine Project, it's really hard to sum up into a few words, but I want to try and take it back to where it all started in my childhood, and then maybe perhaps bring it into how it's kind of taken me to where I am today. And I think this upbringing that I've had here in London, actually, I was born in London, and I was a child of parents that both have had displacement in their lives. My father was displaced during the partition, lost everything, and my mum's parents also were displaced during the same partition. So I think the sense of loss throughout their lives, and
just for the audience, we're talking about the India-Pakistan partition.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah, 1947. Yeah, and
just had Independence Day for both countries, actually. 14th and 15th.
Happy Independence Day. I think that has been passed down through to me, and definitely will be passed down to the next generation as well. That sense of, wow, we lost everything. So that theme really ran through my life, and when I switch on the news today and see displacement and refugees losing everything, it hurts, more than other things, because that's what my grandparents and my dad went through over 70 years ago.
And you also grew up in Southall, right? So that went through quite a change in the 80s as well. I'm sure that kind of reinforced some of those things that you were already seeing within the family as well.
Yeah, I think it's just, when you look back at it, it's inexplainable things that you couldn't really put your finger on at the time, but actually make sense as to why some of these behaviors took place.
And that's really interesting, because that's the butterfly effect, right?
Yeah.
You don't know what small incident is going to kind of manifest into something bigger, right? Like, butterfly effect, something as small as the flap of a butterfly can cause a typhoon halfway across the world, right? So there's a lot of that, and you don't even know if it's in this generation. As we've said, some of that was happening from previous generations as well. Okay, so it's really interesting you mentioned that. But go on. So talk about how it kind of influenced your journey into the washing machine project.
Yeah, so that was a theme. My father was an aerospace engineer. He would take me to air shows when I was a kid, 7, 8 years old, and I'd be obsessed with how these big objects would get into the sky. I'd be inspired by that, and I'd be very curious to know how things worked. And I would take the toolbox out of the cupboard, and I would just break everything. You know, taking apart appliances, not knowing how to put them back together, and that really pissed my mum off. And I just really wanted to look inside, and that kind of curiosity and figuring things out and how they worked was kind of my engineering brain coming to fruition as a child, which is my second theme. And my third theme is a story of unfortunate heartbreak. My father died overnight suddenly when I was 8 years old, and my mum and my 2 sisters raised me. So being in a single parent household with my 2 sisters was a really really eye-opening experience, and I knew growing up how hard it was for women in the household, in the communities that we were in, and how they navigate life. And I've just got so much respect for them and other women that have to go through the same struggles in life. And so these 3 themes of displacement, engineering, and women empowerment have kind of followed me in one way, shape, or form throughout my whole life. And I went to university. I failed my first year, which is quite interesting, and I graduated one of the top of my class in my last year. So that transformation was very difficult. But I joined one of the world's best graduate programs, and I was really just lucky. I felt really lucky getting that job. But if you fast forward 3 years into that role, I was really just fed up of making vacuum cleaners for rich people. And, I wanted to use my skills for the betterment of humanity. I knew that as an engineer, you can really help or hinder humanity, and I knew what side I wanted to be on.
But I think there's a bit more than just being tired of making a washing machine for a rich person, because there was a certain level of curiosity, okay? And there was a certain level of change you wanted.
Yeah.
But let's delve a bit deeper into that, delve a bit deeper into washing machines, a bit deeper into change, and a bit deeper into Divya as well, which is what the washing machine is called, and also the person who influenced it. What does change mean to Nav?
Yeah, I mean, I think life is change, right? I think we're changing as we speak, and I think the only inevitable in life is change and being taxed, and death probably. Those are the only 3 inevitables in life, I think, and if you ingrain your mindset into that, then probably life is a bit better. But humans and me personally, I find it very difficult. I find change very hard. But I've always had a track record of not settling and always pushing myself outside of my comfort zone and trying to be different. I hate fitting in.
Oh, I know.
But I hate fitting in, but I have spent my life trying to fit in. So it's a really interesting mixture of emotions there.
Yeah, I remember that. And, I have often introspected about this myself, about when I had my breakdown, which was obviously in some senses the impetus to starting MindHug once I did recover. And it was exactly the same. We had these conditioned roles and responsibilities that we had to do. And I think it's more so in the Indian community, as you know, some of these things, seeking safety because of all the instability that the Indian community has gone through for generations, or anyone generally. But, I think there was a particular feeling of needing safety, needing security, needing stability. But there was also the feeling of curiosity of what else is out there. And I think that is the underlying human condition, right? We all seek experience. We're all curious. Born in a world, we're conscious. We seek experience. And the only thing sometimes that stops us from having those experiences is a feeling of safety, or a desire for safety, or perceived desire. And I felt that my breakdown was exactly that as well, that I was trying to fit in to a world that I wasn't giving me the experiences that I wanted. So let's touch upon Divya here for a moment. Okay. Divya the person and Divya the washing machine.
Wow.
Okay. What struck you about Divya when you walked in?
I met this lady called Divya who turned out to be my next door neighbor.
This is when you were in India, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got to India because I was fed up of making vacuum cleaners for rich people, and I decided to quit my job. I committed the cardinal sin. I quit my job without another job lined up, and I went to go volunteer in India. So I found myself moved to India with a year ahead of me, and making cook stoves for people who use wood to cook their food. And I met my next door neighbor. Her name was Divya. Her English was amazing. It was my first reaction, because not many women, especially, spoke English on the street, and hers was impeccable. She learned it in high school, and this very practical person who wanted to work, but every time I asked her, why are you not working, or if you want to work, just go and do some work, she said, I don't have the time. And the reason why she didn't have the time was because she'd always spent hours and hours a day on unpaid labor. She from the moment she got up to the moment she slept, she'd wake up at the break of dawn and sleep really late, and she'd just be constantly on the go. And I think that grit and determination and hard work is just so inspiring to see, even though it's just wildly inefficient. But that they're working with the tools that they have, and just being very practical about it. It's just a matter of fact. This is how I need to do it, so I'll just do it. But she'd always complain about muscle pain, joint pain, skin irritation, back pain when it came to hand washing clothes. And I saw that, and I thought, this must change. Something has to change. Why is it that this is the status quo? Why are people accepting this as their standard of living? Yeah, that's when I had the conversation with Divya. I wanted to buy her an electric washing machine, and she said, don't be so silly. I don't have a generator, so I don't have electricity. I don't have running water all the time, so it'll be hard to use an electric washing machine because it uses too much water. And so I promised her an alternative to hand washing clothes. And at the time, I had no clue how I was going to do that, but I felt inspired by her struggle to try and create a solution for her. And then I came back home armed with that promise, and I knew from that very get-go that this is what I wanted to dedicate my life to, and I wanted to name the machine after her, the Divya washing machine.
You handed her a washing machine recently, didn't you? Well,
yeah,
recently.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we fast forward 6 years, which is a fair time to fast forward over, we've now distributed thousands of washing machines, impacted 30,000 lives in 13 countries. I recently went back to Divya's house in April of this year, which is probably only 3-4 months ago, and I managed to give her a washing machine, and it was a very emotional moment. I came back with a few friends of mine that I've met along the way, and to put it in perspective, she's probably changed the lives of many people, not just mine. But it was a very emotional moment. There's lots of tears, lots of laughter. And she said something very profound as we were packing up and leaving. She said, Nav, there are millions of more women just like me around the world. Go find them, because they need your support more than I do now.
Wow. But you needed to do that for yourself.
Yeah. I needed that.
You needed that, right?
Yeah, I think in the run-up to that, was reflecting on this just earlier today, that I took a couple of team members. We have a team of 15 now, and I took a couple of team members who have really dedicated their lives to this mission as well. And I was nervous at the time because I didn't know how the conversation would go, how she would react. And for large parts of this mission over the last 6-7 years, people thought I was lying about the promise. But I was so glad that we got to go back, and it was just so much relief on so many different levels.
Let's touch upon why the change didn't happen before Nav, the handsome man in the turban, walks in and takes over. And you talked about you couldn't understand, she had joint pain, she had all of that. Why do you think change is so difficult?
Yeah, I think it's hard. I often speak to many organizations that have the skills and expertise to solve these issues within a year if they could, but they don't, because it's difficult. They have shareholders, they have product strategies, they have people, they have their own market fit, and Divya's not in the market fit.
Do you think it's as simple as that, or do you think there's a psychological element here?
Yeah, I think so. That's from a very practical level. I make a hardware product, so I think of that in that lens. But if you look at it a bit deeper, there's an othering. Divya's not part of my life. Out of sight, out of mind. The world is a big place. I'm very fixated in my own life. I haven't got time to think about people starving and struggling. I'm struggling myself.
So there's this overabundance of information and this almost desire to survive, which doesn't allow you to go outside your bubble.
Right? But actually, I think if you flip it, we're not just surviving, we're thriving.
Exactly. We're trying to experience. All right, that's exactly what we say at MindHug. We're trying to experience. That is all we want.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one fundamental truth in life.
Yeah.
That's my view, okay? And I know you spoke about death and you spoke about change and you spoke about all of that.
Yeah.
We don't really know about beginnings and end, what time is, etc.
Yeah.
There's enough physics theories out there that talk about time not being fundamental. A lot of new quantum theories that are time independent.
Yeah.
Okay. The block universe theory that talks about the past, present, future coexisting and us navigating through it in a particular way. So we don't really know about time, or we don't know about a lot. Okay. But the one thing we are sure about is we are experiencing something. What adds to that is this overabundance of stimuli and this overabundance of information that we have to navigate to really make change. Okay. And you spoke about, people struggling, and you spoke about all of that. Okay. Is that something you saw? Because you've changed a lot of that. Change was possible. You're doing it.
Hard.
Yeah.
Change is hard.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't think, and I think you and I have spoken about it. I don't think the washing machine project is about the washing machine.
No, not at all.
Right.
That's just
It's about
analogous.
Yeah. It's about Divya being an autopilot, doing whatever she could, struggling. In walks Nav on his horse, right? Walks Nav, sees that, and tells her, "We got you."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got you.
Yeah. I think the caveat there is that the people that we meet thousands of people now, and I'm so grateful that there's people out there that let us into their homes, give us feedback, and really want to be a part of our process when we come up with solutions. I think there's a point of clarification that these people do not want sympathy. They want empathy and they want opportunity, and I think that's really important. These people are some of the happiest people I've ever come across, and they don't want free handouts. They have dignity and pride. They have a lot of pride, and Divya was one of those people. And I wouldn't position myself as a savior or I was just at the right place at the right time. I saw this struggle. I couldn't ignore it, I had the skills and expertise to try and fix it. And I also have this need to focus on this one thing. I think that's really important in this journey.
100%. And I mean, that is the human experience, right? I mean, we look at things from a commercial lens, we look at things from a money lens, but really, where does the economy boil down to? It boils down to specialization of labor. You know, we were born in a world. We realized Nav is good with tools. I'm good at baking bread. Okay. Let's just make each other's lives easier, right? Somewhere along the line, it got complex because someone's good at chopping wood, someone's good at doing other stuff, and we had to make a web that was intricate enough to allow all of this to happen. And we've somehow lost ourselves in that. So what you've really done is come in and you've kind of cut through all of that and said, I'm just here to do what I'm good at.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's very tempting to do other things, and
yeah.
There's been so many opportunities that people have approached us with and said, have you tried this, and can you do that, and there's this problem, and then have you ever collaborated with this person? And I think in general you'll have so much noise like that. And if there's any advice for anyone listening or watching, like, I think the ability to focus and just deliver on the problem that you're trying to solve is probably the best piece of advice that I can
fall in
give.
love with the problem.
I think exactly. I said that in the past a lot, which is, just fall deeply and madly in love with the issue that you're trying to solve, and just go deep on that.
Yeah, but look at it really from a humanistic lens, right?
Yeah,
not just at a surface level, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a story about McDonald's when they were releasing some sort of new range of milkshakes. Okay, and they struggled. They struggled initially, especially where they launched it. It's either McDonald's. I think it's McDonald's. Yeah, and they try to figure out why it was not working. Okay, and it turned out that the way they were positioning themselves, the people they were reaching, they were trying to sell a milkshake. Okay, and what people really wanted when they walked in was an emotion. They're going to be traveling in the car for long distances because this might have been on the highway or whatever. They needed something to take them along on that journey. And when they repositioned that, they realized the problem was not really a lack of milkshake. The problem was a lack of people having something they could take on a journey with them. It changed the sales altogether. Okay?
People want that experience.
People want that experience. Something we keep going back to at MindHug, and you've kind of alluded to it as well. At the end of the day, all we really want is experience. And what
good experience.
Good experiences, right? I mean, we can talk about how do we label experiences. Some people's experiences that might be good, might be bad for someone else. There's all those contextual things as well. Okay, but what you're doing with the washing machine project, giving back 75% of the time to over 5 billion people, that's the endeavor.
Wow. Yeah. One day.
Yeah, one day. Yeah, that's the
Hopefully.
endeavor. Okay, and you're on track. I mean, you're on track. It's early days.
We're
but
very, very small.
Yeah.
No, like not even a drop in the ocean.
So everyone, please get behind the washing machine project. Okay, I cannot vouch for them more. I'm sure you've seen the work they're doing, so please get behind it.
Thank you.
So you're saving 75% of their time. That gives them time to experience.
True.
Right?
Very true.
All right. You're also solving a environmental issue of water. And, they say the next world war will be fought over water.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although that wasn't my priority.
Correct.
My priority was the empathy of the struggle.
Yeah.
But, as we did more and more of the research, they were struggling getting water.
Correct.
Which is,
Correct.
I think it's the effort that some people get to go into to get water is just crazy.
And let's look at this from the butterfly effect, right? Okay, so you got 75% of time being saved. How many hours would you say people are spending in a week?
Up to 20 hours a week hand washing clothes.
Yeah, so you're giving them 75% of that back.
Yeah, 15 hours.
15 hours back.
Yeah.
That's 2 days of work. Okay?
Yeah.
2 days of work in the traditional sense.
I have when I do my speeches around the world, I often ask the audience, what would you do with an extra 15 hours this week?
Correct.
What would you do?
Correct. And this is 15 hours that not only can you earn,
yeah,
but because you're not earning now, the opportunity cost is also just experience.
Huge. Yeah.
It's just experience, right?
Yeah.
Even if you go and have a good time in those 15 hours,
Yeah.
you are no worse off
You're not
financially.
losing anything. We survey a lot, and we try and understand our users' needs and behaviors, and we ask this question:
Yeah.
what would you do, and what are you doing? And it was a really interesting split. You know, we have this very romantic lens.
You are a romantic, so
We have I think just in life, people have very romantic lens when it comes to giving away aid to people. They're like, oh, you know, they're going to use this and they're going to rest and they're going to go to work and they're going to go to school. But actually, you know, people just want to rest and spend time with family.
This is the whole labor market in economics. I'm an economist. And the whole labor market is founded on a curve, which is work versus leisure.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, the leisure curve, it starts increasing at a rate at a point where it becomes much more valuable.
True. That's so interesting. Right? I'd love to see that.
But the point is people are not even able to get to that stage, even though they might desire it, because it becomes a point. If we don't do this, whatever little we're experiencing could go away as well.
Yeah. I think we're seeing this in the middle class right now. This expanding middle class. There's this desire for experience at all costs, right? So that's why you see a boost in the service industry. Lots of the people that I know in this class, this middle class, are adopting services like maids and assistants and things like that to allow them to have time to experience things. And I think that's really interesting, because that was seen as a upper class thing to adopt and use, and now that's seeping into the growing middle class.
And that also goes back to how we define experiences as well.
True.
Right? You know, walking down the river is as pleasurable for me as going to Disneyland. Right? It's just we've associated a particular level of value to Disneyland, or we're walking down a river.
Yeah. I always find, you know, I think it was quite an interesting experiment during COVID where actually we a lot of people struggled, and it was very, very tragic for many, many people. But like there were times where I really enjoyed being at home, doing nothing, because there was no expectation to do anything else. Yeah. Everyone was denied the same experience. Yeah. So there's an equity in everything. Yeah. Whereas when we open our phones, scroll through social media, people are having different experiences, which makes you inferior to them. Yeah.
But that's because we do, as human beings, tend to judge our own reality based on other people's reality.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, but the fact of the matter is, and this is something we show in a lot of the workshops we do, that it's not only our psychological and emotional realities that are different, but even our actual physical realities in terms of how we perceive the world, color, taste, everything is actually very, very different.
Yeah.
But then the interesting thing is, in a lot of people in the West, when they're living in the commercial hubs, are like, I just want to go and find a patch of land somewhere secluded.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
And live that life. The funny thing is, we're judging each other on our different realities, and it becomes very, very interesting at that point. There's a huge level of positives that can come out of that as well, in terms of, like, you know, what Washing Machine Project is doing, because you saw the pain and you knew the pain you felt at one point, and you were able to change that. But from a psychological perspective, there's also a lot of downsides that come with that, and that's something we need to be mindful of. It's something that we put front and center in the MindHug approach, which is understanding the assumptions that are shaping your reality, and especially because you mentioned this as well. You know, this abundance of information.
Yeah.
Okay, this is abundance of information, and the way you process that information is completely based on your assumptions, which are completely environmental.
Yeah, I mean, just getting here, I probably ran past and shoved like 5 or 6 people because I was running late and I had to jump in a meeting. That was just my circumstance and my reality at the time, and I probably spoiled many realities. Today to get
but
here.
You were acting in autopilot at that point. Right, that's the point. And I think people need to realize that in all of our realities, which are individual, we have different autopilot responses as well. Okay, we think we live the same reality, and we think we have the same autopilot responses in those realities. And human beings, as we know, heuristics in economics is taught over and over again, and politics as well. But also in psychology, we learn about shortcuts, right? We use shortcuts to kind of process this information.
Yeah.
And sometimes in processing using shortcuts, we shut down rational thinking.
True. I mean, it's when you're on autopilot, you
just,
blinkers on,
yeah,
tunnel vision.
Yeah. Well, let's just go back to washing machine project for a moment. Yeah. Okay. Compared to when we first met, you're getting a lot of attention, right?
Yeah.
And
the team are doing a great job.
They are. And so are you. And you're always traveling. I think last time you sent me a message from 60,000 feet above or whatever it was. Yeah.
True.
And you left Dyson, a leading engineering company. You now have an engineering company or a washing machine company or an electronics company behind you supporting the washing machine project.
I left an engineering company to create my own, I guess, humanitarian engineering company. I think everyone wears clothes. Everyone has to wash them. And everyone doesn't like doing that. It's a chore. And for some people, it's harder than others. And I think it's just a very universal thing. And I'm lucky that this is a solution, or this is a problem that touches everyone across the world. And it's easy to explain. I cannot explain to you AI or AR, augmented reality. I can't explain to you.
Well, you did. You did a pretty good job last time when we started discussing AI.
I cannot explain to you these interesting startups that have really complex products. But I can explain to you that today there will be over 1 billion families that have to go to a river, stream, or wash on the floor with buckets using cold water, causing back pain, joint pain, and skin irritation. And I think that's such a clear value proposition of where we can help, which is probably pretty universal.
Yeah. I mean, firstly, can you also find a solution to that missing sock that goes on in the washing machine as well? I don't know where my socks, I put in 2, 1 comes out, man. So if you can find a solution to that as well, that will be great. Yeah. I'm sure there's a mountain of missing socks lying somewhere. Yeah. So if you find them, let me know as well.
It's
okay?
It's like a hole.
Black hole.
Yeah, black hole.
2 go in, 1 comes out. All right. Okay. But but I think it's a little bit more than that. It's not just about washing clothes. It's not just about, people get it.
I think there's a point of storytelling.
Yeah.
I really we have a new starter in the team, social media manager, and I said I was introducing them to the washing machine project, and I was taking them through presentations and videos, and this person started crying when I showed this video, and I was like, this feeling that you're getting right now, this is the feeling that we need to tell the world.
Yeah.
And show the world that this is how you move people. And I think for me personally, conveying Divya's message and Divya's struggles is what I do every single day.
Yeah.
And the storytelling piece is so important in our line of work, and how people struggle and how people can benefit from our solution. And it's a continuing art.
It's an art that you haven't only use traditional things to do.
Yeah.
I mean, the traditional way people generally, there's no right or wrong, but the traditional way a lot of people say that a business like you, a social impact business, should be storytelling is using emotion. And you do use emotion, don't get me wrong, but you do also use humor, right? Like you trying to wash Boris Johnson's shirt, you remember?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
21, yeah.
Or you taking your clothes, did you take your clothes off and wash them at Trafalgar Square? Or,
my socks.
Yeah, you took your socks out, yeah. Probably one of those my sock, probably lying there. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
But you did that. Then you also went to the Thames.
True.
Okay. And there's a few other funny things like that which you've done. So you're actually engaging with the full human experience of comedy, emotion, all of it together. And I think that's working.
Yeah. I mean, I think as an entrepreneur or someone that started this organization, I just want to do more and speak to more people. And I just feel like we're not there yet. But we just continually have to find innovative ways to get to them. and some of them you've mentioned, and I think, in this information age, cutting through the noise and getting to the hearts of people and moving them in any way, shape, or form you can, then that's probably the best way.
And cutting through that noise in a very humanistic lens, right? You don't have to be a woke, left-wing, emotional kind of person. We're all humans. We like humor. We like banter. We like all of that. And you gotta bring all of that, right?
Yeah. It's surprising how unifying the Washing Machine Project is.
Yeah.
We have supporters from the right wing, the left wing, the center.
Correct.
And all walks of life.
Correct.
It's amazing.
Correct.
If they only knew what the Washing Machine Project does and where they distribute. I mean, it was interesting. I think back in 2019, one of our first ever articles was done by the Daily Mail, talking about our distributions to Iraqi refugee camps. And this is historically quite a right-wing newspaper. And I think it's interesting that you said that.
But it's also very, very interesting that people automatically have these biases about left-wing and right-wing.
True.
And I think innately everyone does want to help people. I think they come at it from different realities as we perspective.
Yeah.
And what happens is we don't judge them on their reality.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep mentioning this study. There's studies done that when you ask people for help, irrespective of their ideology, race, gender, anything.
Yeah.
Okay. You're actually doing them a favor by asking for help.
True.
Because human beings
My mum always says that.
Yeah.
You might never deny the opportunity to make someone feel useful.
Correct.
Because you might just make their day.
We're innately programmed for that, right? And the reason we probably cannot do that sometimes is, as you said, we have this overabundance of information.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to get by, man. We're just tired, as you said, right?
Yeah.
And we just don't have the ability to think. So actually, when someone doesn't help, strangely, it's more an indication of their well-being.
True.
Rather than it being an issue about them not wanting to help, kind of thing. And that brings me very nicely into the next question, because you and I have chatted about this, and you came out on a podcast recently and said this, spoke about your ADHD.
Yeah, that was actually the first time I ever spoke about it. I was surprised at how many people were interested in that.
Yeah.
By the way, full disclaimer, I'm not diagnosed with it, but I'm very, very sure that I have it.
Yeah.
And I only realized that in recent times,
Yeah, and
I'm interested to know why I haven't gone to the doctor to diagnose it,
Well, entrepreneurs are, as we know, 11 times more likely to have neurodivergence than non-entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and it's a superpower as well.
Massive.
So it's not.
Yeah. I first realized that there was something wrong in my mind when I just physically could not concentrate on anything for a longer period of time. That some things I wasn't interested in. So when I'm trying to read something that I don't particularly like, my mind will drift off automatically after the second sentence. And I'd just find myself drifting off. And it was only when I became really close to friends outside of my family group that they said, are you okay? That's not normal.
Well, we just had a conversation about this before, right? You asked me a question, and you didn't even wait for me to answer. You just went on to So, but that's kind of humor. I see kind of humor in that, and there's obviously an element of neurodivergence. The story, that I tell people very often about you and I is when I sent you that message, should we catch up for dinner?
Oh yeah.
And didn't hear back. 2 months later, you say, yep, let's do it. And I'm like, bud, it's been 2 months.
Yeah.
All right. So what are you doing for your mental well-being and well-being generally? Because it's all linked.
Yeah, I think when you're so engrossed into a mission, and also a good mission that has positive impact in the world, you just it's like a drug. You want to do more of it. But this is a marathon, not a sprint, and a marathon is 26.2 miles, and I think we're on mile 1. So there's still a long, long, long way to go, and I want to be here at mile 26.2. Still with the same amount of energy. And I think I learned that earlier on into the entrepreneurship journey, and I have a great team now, so I can travel less, even though it's still a lot. But we can spread those responsibilities. And I think for me, keeping myself humble and still when I'm not on the move with the people that I love and I care around me, I think for me that's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, and like I said right at the beginning, when you walked into the BBC studio with that blue drum and a scissor-cutted door, and now when you walk in with the latest model, and you had those interim models as well, it's the same story, it's the same now, you know? And that's really good to see. And I think that also is the reason you're able to influence people as well. And
I wouldn't, maybe it's an imposter syndrome, but I wouldn't say that I'm an influencer or influencing people. I just want to make sure people like Divya have access to an alternative to hand washing clothes. Yeah,
but you have delivered 30,000 machines.
We had impacted 30,000 people. Yeah, I mean, and we want to do way more. Yeah. So
you've got Whirlpool behind you.
Whirlpool Foundation.
Okay, you got them behind you. I just want to touch upon that influencing skill. All right, imposter syndrome aside, all entrepreneurs have imposter syndrome. We all have it. What do you think is your secret power, or the washing machine's secret power, storytelling aside, that has enabled you to influence people the way you've influenced them?
The power of community. I think one of my team members told me this story, and he said that this is exactly how you operate, which is, you know, it's about like this old man who needs to find the ingredients to bake a cake, and he knocks on the door of the first house and says, "Do you have any flour?" It says no. The first house says no. You go on to the second house. The second house says, "Yeah, we have flour, but we want to come with you and see if you get any eggs." And then you knock on the third door and no one's there, and the fourth door and the fifth door and the sixth door, someone has one egg, but they want to say they want to come on the journey too. And I feel like I have the ability to bring people on the journey and to build a community of people that are also equally as passionate about solving this problem.
It sounds a bit like the jago ceremony in a Punjabi wedding, you know, where you take that pot and you go around knocking on people's doors asking for flour and eggs, and then the whole village starts coming with you, right?
Correct, yeah. I feel like it does take a village for these types of things, and I think I learned that very early on, that I can't do it alone. Yeah. And there are people in the world that are equally as frustrated in their day jobs as I was, and they want to help. And I asked for their help, and we continue to ask for their help. Every stage, every single day, ask.
So before we get onto where Washing Machine Project is going, and that will be probably where we'll end this, but have there been any misses or near misses that you look back at and say, I don't know why I did that or why I didn't do that?
I think very trusting, and I really do give the benefit of the doubt to the people that we work with. And very early on, we took on a R&D engineering consultant, and they really messed us around. They delayed the washing machine project's design by 6 months, didn't deliver, and by the end of the 6 months, we had nothing. And then they held us to ransom with what they did have. And
when you say held you to ransom, do you mean they said, we'll give you this?
Yeah, we'll give you it unless you...
But that wasn't a complete product anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, we've had issues like that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if that was very early on into the journey, I think it was in year 1 or year 2. And in hindsight, I felt like we did everything that we could. We got testimonials from other people that used the service. We did multiple calls with this person before we instructed them to do anything. But I feel like, you know, with a bit more experience, I might have went to go visit them before we paid for the service. And there's other things that we could have done. But yeah, I think luckily at that time, we could pivot and find time to do other things. I think if that happened now, that'd be really bad.
But then you do also have all this other support now as well.
Correct, yeah, and loads of people that have got way more experience than I have, and I always revert back to them because I don't have the skills and expertise to do this at scale.
Yeah.
But I know people that do.
Yeah, and I mean, Steve Jobs said that, right? We don't hire good people to tell them what to do. We hire good people so they can tell us what to do.
Correct, yeah.
But they need to be aligned with your vision, your mission.
Yeah.
So very often good people come in, like, consultants who think they are, and they probably are, they know a lot more about the space, but they just aren't aligned with the vision. They just aren't aligned with what you're trying to achieve. So they can be the best at what they do, but if they're not delivering it in the direction that you want to take it, it's not worth it, right? Where does Washing Machine Project go from here now?
I think we're still very, very small. There's 30,000 people that we've positively impacted. There's still 5 billion people that don't have access to electric washing machines. So the gap between where we are now and the overall end goal is so astronomically huge. But yeah, in the interim, we're hoping to manufacture closer to the users that we distribute to. That's going to require a whole set of skills and expertise. And, I think in 10, 20 years' time, when I come back on the MindHug podcasts and I talk about our mission vision, we'll be laughing at the time we only made washing machines.
No, absolutely. But I mean, just on that, you do recognize the journey you've been on, right?
My family keep me so humble. I remember the time where I was invited to the Prime Minister's coronation lunch, and I was having lunch with so many interesting people at 10 Downing Street on the street, and my WhatsApp family group was buzzing, and it was because my nephew said his first words, and they couldn't care less the fact that I was at 10 Downing Street, and they've lost so much interest in the next news feature. All they care about is my happiness and our family's happiness. And they'll be here after the Washing Machine Project. They were here before. Yeah. And I think that's so important to be grounded.
And you spoke about humbleness, and that's something I've always seen in you. And it's something I tell a lot of entrepreneurs, that sometimes you have to force it, right? Mm-hmm. It's hard to get carried. I mean, it's easy to get carried away, rather. Okay, in the life you're living as an entrepreneur, and what that does is then you start getting you start getting your drug from the validation rather than the work.
Yeah, we do this all the time where it's maybe unappreciative, but I'm really not interested in the good feedback.
Correct.
About a product. I literally just filter on the bad feedback, because that's where you get your improvements from. Yeah. Not in the echo chamber of how well you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And with a lot of these things, you don't even have to believe it half the time. You just have to force yourself, because otherwise the mind just becomes its own master, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Really, and takes you in that route.
Yeah.
The whole concept of visualization, etc., that people talk about. It's really just training the mind.
Yeah, I have a very good friend who is a visualization expert, Maya, who talks about this a lot, and I've picked it up, and I think it's very powerful.
We look at this from a kind of a confirmation bias perspective. If you keep telling yourself something, you become that thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So even if you don't believe it, if you keep telling yourself something, that's what your mind will start focusing on. So sometimes if you find yourself going in a direction you're not happy about as a person, but you see yourself going that way because it's like a drug to you, sometimes you kind of have to push back and almost force yourself to say the opposite.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so last question on the information, because you just mentioned information. I was going to bring it up, but you mentioned filtering through that information.
Yeah.
What is the way you filter through that information so you can focus on opportunity and not focus on what we started towards towards the beginning? We spoke about survival and just being all over the place. How does Nav filter through all that noise to focus on the opportunity?
I mean, I can just today, so we have some really pressing priorities, and there's just loads happening at once, but we always have to just focus on one thing at one time. And I'm getting better at it. Before, I had this massive FOMO, and I was just worried about missing the opportunity. But I think it's a bit easier when you're a bit settled and you have backing, multiple years of backing. So you have the luxury of saying, actually, no, this is the number one priority.
That safety net, right?
Safety net.
Yeah.
I think trying to find your safety net is the best way to.
Well, which is the
prioritize.
Fundamental premise of MindHug, which is before you can go into understanding and reframing and experience, you have to know you've got that safety, right?
Correct.
That's why this podcast is called We Got You. Good place to end. Good place to end. One final giveaway for the audience, people who will be listening. That one piece of book, well, the one book, the one soundtrack, the one playlist, anything that helped you through a significant period of change, positive or challenging.
For me? Yeah, I have bought this book over 60 times for friends and family around the world. The book has a quiz that I do in some of my keynote speeches with the audiences around the world, and it's a book that's changed my life and my outlook on life. And it's a book that really addresses the biases that we have when it comes to data and interpreting data and what people are really truly going through. And it's called Facts by Hans Rosling. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on We Got You, Nav. It's been great. Any parting words or good to go?
Fall in love with the problem, because the solution will always change.
But go down to the bottom layer of that problem.
Oh,
the human layer of that problem.
Exactly.
Cool. Perfect, Nav. Well, thank you for your time and all the best to Washing Machine Project. Please, everyone, support the Washing Machine Project. They're doing great work and they need all the support they can get.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nav.